soundtrack of Gurinder Chadha's directorial Partition 1947 is special. A.R. Rahman composed the music for this film and it is at its classical best. At the music launch event, Rahman spoke about how he finally decided on making the music for the film and why he thinks the movie plays an important role in changing the way today's youth looks at the historical bit of Indian partition.
It just reflects the film and her vision. I was not, when she said I'm making a film on partition, yeah, sure. And then she showed and there are a lot of facts about the movie which I didn't even know. And that fascinated me.
Right.
And if our younger generation, which are, they're all very judgmental and they have, kind of a opinionated status. Now, I think it will change this movie, and it's very, very important at this point of time in history. So things are happening now in India.
Rahman also spilled a few secrets on how the music of this film is already garnering international recognition and accolades.
Balance between, because it was meant for the Western audience too. So we didn't want to go too desi, and we had Western producers too. So we had constant thing that don't make it too Indian. But I think ultimately she selected all the Indian themes and it blended very well. And I keep getting a lot of amazing, kind messages from people who have heard the soundtrack. And it's also shortlisted in the World Soundtrack Awards in Belgium.
Filmmaker Gurinder Chadha also highlighted how music maestro A.R. Rahman was not completely sure of doing Partition 1947 and how he came on board only after she showed him a cut of the film.
Given the subject matter and the fact that it's a Western and an Indian movie, for me there was one choice, which was Mr. A.R. Rahman.
Right.
And so I had approached him, I met him, and he was quite reticent. He wasn't entirely sure about doing a film on partition, understandably. But I kept persuading him, and he said, we'll see, man of few words, as we know.
Right.
And then I met him in LA, and then I showed him a cut of the film. And we sat in his house, we watched the cut, and after the cut, he was extremely happy to come on board because he felt the message of the film was one of reconciliation, a very human film, very full of humanity and also very spiritual.
Director Gurinder Chadha got emotional at a point and had a sudden outburst, but teary-eyed she explained the reason.
You have to understand that someone like me who grew up in England and under the shadow of partition, to then come here and make a film like this in India, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And I think the film shows a lot of pain in the world, not just for then, but for today. And I think for those of us who feel terrible about some of the things that we witness, not just here in Europe, in America, we fear for our children. I have 2 small children, and I want them to live in a world where people respect each other and love each other. So anyway, I've gotten too emotional. I didn't mean to be emotional, but I think the film really, for me, feels. I could never imagine as a little girl sitting in England, growing up with my nanny ma telling me terrible stories of partition, that one day I would be doing this and sending this message to the world with the beautiful help of all these people. So I think that's why I got a bit emotional.
The music launch was also attended by actress Huma Qureshi, singers Hari Haran and Hansraj Hans, among others.
I'm just grateful to be part of such a lovely film. It's a very important film, and I think that is why I feel blessed that this film is saying something really important that we seem to have forgotten, even 70 years after India's independence and partition, which is not to forget about love and humanity. And I think, no matter which side of the border you're on, it's an important lesson to remember.
The film revolves around the historic partition of India in 1947, which gave birth to 2 nations, Pakistan and India. Releasing this Independence Day weekend, Partition 1947 will reveal the real truth behind the partition. Are you ready for this one?